Nabil Moghaddam is a certified nutritional therapist and a detoxification specialist. He's also a graduate of homeopathy from the Canadian College of Homeopathic Medicine, Toronto. He is passionate about awakening awareness in practitioners and the public alike to natural medicine, homeopathy, detoxification, and how mineral imbalances affect both physical and mental health. Nabil has been practicing natural medicine for 8 years now and resides on the beautiful island of Madeira, Portugal. During our interview, we explore his journey of becoming so ready for health and garnering simple wisdom from the natural world. We discuss the toxins found in common food and tap water, the value of an alkaline diet and growing pure foods at home, and the benefits of earthing or grounding in the soil. We also talk about how creating an immunity-boosting diet is essential to good health, what effects certain foods can have on hormones, and how to naturally produce melatonin and other chemicals that can ease a person into deep sleep and detailed, memorable dreams. Further, we muse about lessons seen in the plant world that can inspire humanity to infuse natural growth into our systems, and about why public food and health systems should be decentralized so that individuals can grow more empowered from the grassroots. Exploring food as medicine and agriculture as the roots for a better functioning society and a more beautiful world. I'm Sienna Mae Heath, and this is Food is Freedom. Well, Nabil, I want to graciously welcome you to my new show, Food is Freedom. And given your nation inspiring humanity to become ready for holistic health, as you say, so ready for health, I've invited you to be my first guest as, someone who's passionate about food as medicine and solutions for various issues that people in the West and perhaps in the East and around the world are having with their health, and they're, desperately looking for solutions outside of the mainstream, which you are giving them. And for some context on why I'm starting this show, I'm starting this series from my perspective as a gardener and my passion for agriculture. And in recent years, I've kind of just organically developed a curiosity for herbal remedies. Like all of a sudden I've got this patch of mint. Of course, the tea tastes fantastic, and there's all sorts of salves and other remedies you can make from it. But what is the solutions that they're providing? What is the benefit? And there's just a whole library and just countless resources on natural health. But what I love about your approach is that you're looking for an initial readiness. Your clients have to be ready and open and interested in going outside of the mainstream. And at times that can come from a place of desperation, like, I don't know what else to do. So I just want to first commend you for exploring the medicinal properties of various foods and herbs and flowers, and being here and bravely sharing your wealth of information. And I imagine we'll be exploring nutrition therapy, homeopathy, and detoxification, and the overall awakening that you're seeing among your clientele and the shift of ages that we're in, and how that's inspiring your work. And I imagine this will be quite a fruitful conversation. I'm just really grateful to be here on the mic with you, Nabil.
Hey, and I'm so grateful to be here. So thank you for having me.
Of course. So considering kind of the origins of your journey, or one might call it hero's journey, what initially inspired you to awaken both practitioners and the public to become ready for natural health remedies?
Well, for me, it's the typical story of finding an issue, like a big problem with the current medical system. And as a young boy, having many symptoms and only getting worse, and not being listened to by the doctor at a young age, I could sense that the modern day doctors didn't care about me, because they hardly listen. You're in and you're out. They give you a drug, and then the drug makes you worse, and then you go back, same thing over and over again. And just watching the same when it comes to my family members and friends. Everybody just keeps getting worse. Nobody keeps getting better. And so that was my pain point as a youth, with over a dozen symptoms: chronic childhood arthritis, acid reflux, migraines, constipation, um, you name it. I mean, a plethora of symptoms. And so that's how it really started. But I did end up studying music production because that was my passion. But then natural health just kept calling me back and calling me back until I had a pretty amazing experience with homeopathy. So a family member of ours who runs a homeopathic school in India, he came and he visited us, and he treated both myself and my mom of psoriasis, which she had at the time. And what we had experienced, we both got cured under his care. And that's what really um, basically woke me up to the powers of homeopathy, which I knew nothing about at the time. And at that time, he invited me to go study at his school in India, but I wasn't ready for it because I was just I just graduated school for music production. I was so excited to start producing some music. And I did that. I had some fun with a good friend of mine, Kareem. We made some music. We traveled, especially North America, for about 5 years. But then, the whole health thing just kept pulling me back. The need for it. There was so much need for the truth when it comes to health and healing. And so eventually I took I took the steps. I made the first step to study homeopathy at the Canadian College of Homeopathic Medicine, and then nutrition, and then detoxification. And yeah, I mean, the more I did it, the more I loved it, to the point where music started becoming part-time, and the health practice, the YouTube channel started taking off, because about 10 years ago, when I started my YouTube channel, people were ready to hear the truth. And so I felt really fulfilled and so happy to be in the field. But now things have really changed. So maybe we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, so that was my journey, which is a typical journey of a pain point that you have, a big pain point as a child or a teenager. And then the greatest fulfillment is to grow and to provide that for others, what you didn't have, what you really desired and couldn't find. And that brings an incredible amount of joy and fulfillment.
Hmm. Yes, I think facing your pain points and facing the challenges that call upon you to really step up, not just for your own health and in your case, but for others, it's a crucial part of your journey, right? Because you have a choice to either fall prey or fall victim to your circumstances, or be empowered and likewise empower others. You listed, as you said, a plethora of issues that you had experienced in childhood, so early on. Nowadays, what are some common issues that your clients are facing, and what diet changes or perhaps natural remedies are the most needed among them, and why?
That's a pretty good question. It's a loaded question. We could talk about that for an hour at least. But if I were um, to share a short answer in a short manner, the main issues patients are dealing with, the leading cause of disease, is actually toxicity. So what I like to tell people and my patients is, you're not sick, you're being poisoned. And I think most people can understand that we do live in the most toxic times ever. Even the Environmental Working Group a couple of years back, when they tested the blood in the umbilical cord of recently born babies, they found over 300, I believe somewhere around that, in the hundreds, of toxic chemicals, many of which are cancer causing. So that idea that babies are born with a clean slate of health no longer exists. In fact, babies are being born toxic. And then many people, they're under the impression that, sure, we're being poisoned from every direction, we live in toxic times, but the body has the ability to get rid of all these toxins. And that's true to a certain degree, but the sheer amount, the exposure of toxicity, not only from the environment and the toxic chemicals in the water and in the food supply and in the modern day medicines, but also a leading cause of toxicity are the infections, many of which are engineered. So they poison you from the inside out. And so that's the main issue. And that's my story as a practitioner. Is when I studied homeopathy, I'll make this as short as possible, and then we can dive into it if you want a little bit more. But as a practitioner, I started with homeopathy and I saw little effect, short-lived, very short-lived, and patients would relapse all the time, which wasn't the case when we study the history of homeopathy, and all the success that the forefathers of homeopathy had. It was very short-lived for most patients. And then I studied nutrition because I was intrigued by the hair tissue mineral analysis, getting a snapshot of your minerals and heavy metals. And that was also very ineffective. The odd patient, 1 in 100, maybe they experience great improvements from taking copper that they were deficient in. But then when I stumbled upon the science of detoxification, the first protocol was detoxing the gut of parasites and infections. That started to provide results for my patients, like exponential, through the roof results for the majority. Right? The majority of patients now, whereas in the past it was the majority of patients would not feel any improvements with any of these treatments. But when it came to detoxing the gut, all of a sudden now patient cures themselves of lifelong anxiety, lifelong insomnia, etc. And that was my introduction to the science of detoxification, to the point now where that's my main focus because I see results. And now we use like about 7 of the top most powerful detox protocols in the world that, when done together, revolutionize the life of patients, because we're addressing the most detrimental toxins and poisons, which, I mean, we can go into a little bit of conspiracy as well, but some people believe that it's by chance and it's out of ignorance that these poisons are being used. But as a practitioner, when you see what works, and then you see all of these protocols and products are banned or restricted, you start putting 2 and 2 together,
Right. Seeing them banned is much different than seeing certain remedies or medications encouraged and then others just kind of falling by the wayside. And hearing you say that certain things have been engineered and that we are being poisoned, there is kind of like a taste, if you will, of like that language that suggests that it's intentional. And I suppose whether or not it's intentional, whatever one's belief is on that, there are actions that people can take to tailor their diets to uplift their health and perhaps rid their gut or their liver of certain diseases. What are some dietary restrictions that we pretty much anyone can implement? Of course, we're all individuals with our own needs, but generally, like especially when you're looking at like gut and liver health, what nutritional changes would you recommend?
So yeah, that's a big question. And a lot of people on their journey, they start trying out different diets, and it can be frustrating. So they try, keto, they try just fruitarian diets or vegan, and it can be quite a long journey and very frustrating. And on my personal journey, but also as a practitioner, I've learned that the 2 most important, the 2 most influential, impactful diets to recover the majority of people in the world is twofold, basically. Two types of diets, but that can overlap, that should overlap, in fact. One of them is it's not what you eat, but it's the purity of what you eat. So that's something I've learned is probably one of the most influential aspect of the diet. So, um, and having moved to Portugal, I've noticed a tremendous difference between the quality of food here when compared to the food in Canada. So I was born in Canada. I lived half my life in Canada, half my life in Portugal. And in Canada, most of the food does not have a scent, does not smell, fruits and vegetables, and it tastes like rubber, it tastes almost tasteless compared to the foods here in Portugal. Like they do also have their own toxins here and there, I'm sure. But food tastes like food and it smells. It smells good. And now I strive to produce my own food as well, much like yourself. So we can get into that. I'd love to talk more about that in just a bit. But so the purity of the food is key. Like when we think about our ancestors, our great grandparents, they were not obsessed about all these different types of diets. Sure, there are different diets that would be better for different blood types. There's the what's it called? The right food for your blood type. It was a very popular book that has helped many of my patients. They share their feedback with me and tell me when I followed the O blood type carnivore diet, it worked for me. Or what's it called? The other blood types. So that is true, but the most impactful is food that's not poisoned. There's no middleman poisoning your food supply with cancer-causing glyphosate or gender-bending atrazine, putting fluoride in your water, cancer-causing fluoride, like IQ-reducing fluoride. So that's the big one, and it's difficult. It's difficult to source pure foods, even if you go to an organic market. I found there's a huge difference. The food here in Portugal than the organic market in Canada, that's all I used to buy. And yeah, just moving to the countryside and eating these local foods has made a tremendous effect on my own health as well. And I notice it. So that's the first one, is the purity of the food. Our ancestors used to eat real, wild, unadulterated, unpoisoned foods, and they used to live long lives with very little, close to little disease. And the other diet would be one of the most therapeutic diets is an alkaline diet. And the reason why an alkaline diet is the most beneficial in the times we live in to help most people basically recover and cure themselves is because, as I mentioned earlier, the main issue we're dealing with is toxicity, and toxins are acids, are acidic in nature, and the body is acidic in function but alkaline in its design. And you may be familiar with Dr. Otto Warburg. He won a Nobel Prize about 100 years ago, where he discovered that no disease, including cancer, can exist in an alkaline body. And they've buried his findings, and it happens to be incredibly true. So if you test out this theory as a patient or as a practitioner, you'll get incredible cures and recoveries in your practice, which is to alkalize the body of the patient. But it's easier said than done. So the truth is always simple. The dark forces, they confuse the truth in order to, whatever it may be, to gain control, to enslave you, to make profits off of you. But the truth is always simple. That is a characteristic of the truth, and that's the truth. Cleaning the body, purifying the body, and alkalizing the body basically causes a lot of recoveries. And so the alkaline diet consists of alkaline foods and beverages. And most of what we eat nowadays, especially in the West, is acidic. So an alkaline diet will mitigate, even if you're infected, it'll mitigate a lot of the internal poisoning that's taking place and reduce inflammation, pain, etc.
And what are some alkaline rich foods?
So alkaline foods are foods that have a higher pH. So some of you may remember in school that 7 is neutral, and then anything under 7 pH is acidic, and above 7 is alkaline. So some of the most alkaline foods happen to be wheatgrass juice, so the grass juicing, barley juice, and many other ones. Those are the most alkaline. Green foods in general, they're all alkaline. Avocados, certain nuts are alkaline, like almonds are alkaline, and animal products are all acidic. So cheese, dairy, meat, and temporarily, the patient will restrict those foods and eliminate those foods. And then as they purify and alkalize the body, then they can reintroduce the acidic foods of their choice at a balance of 70% alkaline, 30% acidic, or 80-20. Once you learn the truth, which is really this simple, it's the terrain theory of disease by Antoine Béchamp, which none of the medical students teach. They teach the complete opposite, which is the Pasteurian model. But the terrain theory of disease basically teaches that you are in complete control of your health. It's basically the science of epigenetics, the environmental theory. When the internal milieu is polluted and toxic and acidic, it actually induces mutation. So healthy cells become pathogenic cells. And so once people learn the truth about health, which is really this simple, then you can cheat, essentially. I cheat all the time, right? I eat cookies and I have my own treats here and there. When I travel, go out with friends to a restaurant, but I compensate, right? With alkaline supplements, with alkaline foods, and other what's it called, practices that purify the body.
Right. So that, to sum up, the advice is to include pure foods, almost no matter what they are, as long as they're pure and grown organically and ideally in your backyard. And secondly, to explore an alkaline rich diet, which is actually something I just heard about the other day. So it's already piquing my interest. And, for people who are like, well, I don't have space to grow my own food, you can actually grow quite a few greens indoors with a basic grow light, or even like just with natural light. Like I've had success growing arugula and spinach indoors. I've heard people have even had success growing baby carrots, but I think that would take a pretty good grow light to make that happen. But you can get really creative with even just a container garden. And I'd love to hear what you're growing and why, and if you're paying extra attention to the pH of the soil as well.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that point yet, paying attention to the pH of the soil. The soil here where I live, in the island of Madeira, Portugal, is quite fertile. So anything you plant, really, it grows. I haven't had a situation where, a vegetable or a fruit tree or an herb would not grow. So yeah, I haven't gotten to that point, but I will say that it's not easy. So it's not easy for a city boy, like which is probably most people watching this podcast, this vlogcast. I had always wanted to have my own farm and grow my own food, but but over the years, it's been now almost 4 years that I've moved to the countryside, to the mountain tops, and the neighbors have been so kind and gracious with their time and their wisdom, and they love teaching. They love teaching you, and they've been teaching me. I've been learning from them little by little, and every year, increasing my capacity and the amount that I grow, and learning very important techniques, like certain plants certain vegetables you can't plant close together because one of them will kill the other ones. And also like how to water them. Like they've told me to water it at night, because then the difference of the cold water from the stream and the heat of the sun throughout the day will cause a shock. So I've learned to, especially in the summer, to water at night. So all these little tips and tricks that you learn over time. But I would agree that you don't need that much land to grow your own food. So as an example, the home that I bought now has about 2,000 square meter of land, but most of it is not worked because I don't have the time. It's so much to maintain, and my hands are full just with the front garden, where I've planted eggplants, turnips, and broccoli, and cabbage, and lettuce, and beets, and the rest are fruits and herbs, trees and herbs. So that in itself, to maintain like a garden, that's in itself a full-time job. So yeah, I've been building my capacity, but that's my favorite time of the day. It's taking off your shoes, earthing, taking off your shirt, getting your vitamin D, fresh air, and being present in the moment. Yeah, it's my favorite time of day. Earthing, by the way, one of the most underrated health practices to not only recover oneself, but to maintain oneself. And you learn so much. One of the things I've loved about moving to nature, to the countryside, is you learn so much by observing the plants and the animals. Like with animals, every animal immerses itself in the soil. My chickens, they dig a hole, they go inside, and with their feet, they toss the soil over themselves, almost like they're in a spa, like a dirt spa. The goat is, from time to time, it eats the soil. I've taken videos of that. Hopefully make a video about this soon. And, my dog, the dogs love, they choose between the area with grass and the part that has no grass, it's just dirt. They always go for the dirt, and they also kind of do the same. And we're the only mammals. So every mammal is in contact with Mother Nature, with the earth, with direct current from the soil. But we're the only mammals who have been effectively disconnected from the soil, with rubber soles in our shoes. So, yeah, that's one of the greatest crimes, one of the biggest crimes. So that's been huge too. That's a part of my practice.
And you're right, there is so much wisdom to garner from the natural world. It's truly divine and in a way simple. Like you said, that truths can be simple in themselves. For instance, like you brought up companion planting, or plants that should not be planted together, such as cabbages and strawberries. Actually, that's one of the most distinct examples of what's called antagonistic plants. Cabbages secrete a certain substance that actually makes a lot of things. It hinders the growth of quite a lot of plants, but strawberries are among the plants that have quite small roots. I don't want to call them weak, but they're delicate, I suppose. You even think of a strawberry in itself, and it's a delicate fruit, and then you have like the crunchy cabbage in contrast. And we actually literally have plant families, as you're probably familiar with. They're called families. And this spectrum of companion plants to antagonistic plants, I think, shows that while, yes, you could say like humanity is or flowers of one garden, or food and flowers of one garden. The garden is quite vast and well spaced, and even plants of the same variety, or plants that are, essentially the same, like a row of cabbages, they need proper spacing. Or if you're growing in containers, separate containers. So I love hearing about your garden and the experience of earthing too, and kind of calling the rubber sole of a shoe a crime, or kind of like it is really a distinction, one of the many distinctions that us humans have taken on, and set ourselves apart from other mammals in that way. Not that I want to go barefoot my whole life, but when you're in a field of soft soil or grass, like why not immerse yourself in the earth? And it's my understanding that there are properties in soil itself that actually impact your health in positive ways and can even cure depression. Is that right?
Yes, yes. Um, I should probably also mention that one of the things I discovered recently is that there are companies that sell earthing shoes or grounding shoes. So one does not necessarily have to always go barefoot. But yeah, I would imagine like the bacteria, the bacteria in the soil. Well, we have good bacteria covering our skin as well. And the foot is incredibly powerful at absorbing, medicines. This is why for the longest time they would put it in your socks and wrap your foot up in the night. Onions, probably many people have heard about that.
Or acupuncture.
Yeah, so the feet have an incredible ability to absorb. And so you can just imagine the amount of elements your foot would absorb when in the soil, in healthy soil, not only electricity, but also good bacteria.
Yeah. Just considering that practice of healing through the foot, and wrapping your foot up in certain nutrients at night kind of reminds me of the practice of watering plants at night and allowing the soil to absorb the water and not be absorbed by the sun as it would be during the day. So, us plants and people are really not that different.
Yeah, another on that note, another reflection I recently had was when I transplanted a tree for the first time. And it was a pretty big tree. Like I would call it a youth. So it's not like a small tree, but it was pretty big. I had to move it. And when I transplanted it, it experienced some injuries because it's not easy to, the roots really go far. And however gentle you may try to be, there's always some damage that occurs to the roots. And so, yeah, so what happened was, a couple of the roots got cut off because I was planting it in the midst of the roots of another big tree, so that as the big tree is dying off, this one will kind of take its place to provide shade. And so I was shocked to see how quickly that transplanted tree, recovered and had its the new leaves sprout. And it made me think about human beings. Like, if trees have such a great ability, are so resilient, that despite all that trauma to their roots and moving them around, they become even stronger. When I shared this story with some friends who were gardeners, they said actually some plants, the more you transplant it, the more fruits it produces and the stronger it gets. And I thought about human beings, and I was like, that should be the case for us humans. Like, the more illness you experience, your body should recover. It's been designed to heal. But for some reason, human beings are the only ones who experience chronic disease. Like the majority of humanity, you're stuck. Your body's stuck. You remain sick. You only get worse, and you never get better. So that's another thing to ponder on. Everything in nature you look at, animals in the wild rarely ever get sick. Plants are extremely resilient and self-healing. Why? Why can't you heal? And maybe, over the years, you've, because of the incompetence of the system, the current system, you believe that you'll never heal. I wanted to share this example so that through this simple example, you can begin to believe again that this is how your body has been designed. But because, again, the overwhelm of toxins and infections, that's what's really, we're not going to get into human beings getting GMO'd and how that plays part into weakening human beings' ability to detox and to get sicker and sicker. But yeah, I just wanted to share that everybody it's built into your body to heal and to become stronger and more resilient.
Another area of health that I think piques many people's interest is hormone balance and imbalance. Could you speak to that a little bit, like maybe some effects, positive and negative, of certain foods, whether they're more pure, impure, and how they can impact one's hormones?
Sure. So I have a slightly different angle on hormones, which is I never intended to become an expert in hormones. And so in some ways I'm not. But I will say that since we've started detoxing patients, one of the most powerful ways to bring equilibrium to the endocrine system is to detox. So that's the feedback I get from most of the patients who do the detox protocols. Once they purge all of those poisons from the glands, all the different glands that are supposed to produce the hormones, they need to take less and less medication to the point where they don't take it anymore. So detox, so consider that. I want to put that on the radar of people. The detox is actually one of the most powerful ways to normalize your hormones. But then I'll share some other things. So I am in that angle, I can help a lot of people with their hormones, but I would like to say that I do specialize in helping men normalize their hormones, only because I'm a man and I had to go through that journey myself. And so that's what I've been helping a lot of men do, which is reclaim their testosterone, to be honest with you. We're living in a world where we have men with the least amount of testosterone ever recorded in human history. And we see the manifestation of it in the physical appearance, not only in the mental, emotional. And it has to do with so many things, with mineral imbalances. So zinc deficiency, which a lot of men are experiencing. Zinc is intimately related with testosterone, and copper is related to estrogen. So men who are deficient in zinc and have too much copper will end up having less testosterone, essentially, and retaining more estrogen. And another big one is your sexual behavior. We live in such a sexualized society. I used to think it was because sex sells, and sure, that's part of it. But then you go a layer deeper and you find out that one of the most powerful ways to disempower men, especially, is to get them addicted to sex, essentially, and to what's it called? Losing, basically, or basically ejaculating, right? Getting rid of their semen, this life force, the choicest of nutrients from the blood system, designed to nourish and create new life. The most powerful energy in the world is that sexual energy. So on that note, a very famous traditional Chinese medical study, which you can find on the internet, just type in Chinese study, uh, masturbation, 50% testosterone. Just types those keywords into Google and you'll find um, the, uh, the study where they basically got men to abstain for 7 days, only 7 days, 1 week, and control their sexual urges, and their testosterone increased by a whopping 50%. So if you want to, emasculate, create a effeminate population, a more submissive population, as you unleash tyranny on the world, well, the most effective way is to get young boys addicted to sex and pornography, and that's why it's free. Right? All the bad things are free. All the good things are almost impossible to find or inaccessible because they're too expensive. So it's not by chance that they can quickly shadow ban us using these smart algorithms, instantly take you down, take your videos down, and somehow they can't get rid of porn on every smartphone, that every kid has access to now to get addicted to. So anyways, I wanted to share that. So I do specialize in helping men reclaim their masculinity, at least on a biochemical level, and purging atrazine, like the gender-bending chemical from their body as well.
And you've spoken about various mineral imbalances, and you mentioned the hair mineral analysis that you offer. Could you share a bit more about what can be learned from such an analysis?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the hair analysis is one of the top 3 tests that I recommend for patients. And it's just because it provides so much information about the biochemistry. One of them are the minerals. So the most common minerals, it will show us what you're deficient in, and what sometimes patients will have an excess as well. So we see the excess of copper, the excess of iron, which can be toxic, the excess of calcium. So we'll see what minerals you're deficient in, and so that when you supplement, you can be more targeted in your supplementation. You don't waste your money on all these different random minerals that you probably don't even need, which will even make you worse in some cases. So you can be more targeted in your nutrition therapy program. It also reveals heavy metals, though it doesn't reveal heavy metals that are stored in the fat cells, because those are stored. But the heavy metals that come out through the hair tissue are the ones that you're exposed to on a daily basis in your environment. But then when you do start detox protocols, then we do in retests, in future retests, we do start seeing those stored heavy metals come out through the hair tissue. So there's a little bit of a confusion when it comes to some practitioners don't really understand this. When a patient's heavy metals comes down like low or nothing, they'll tell the patient you have no heavy metals, and that's not entirely true. So I just wanted to point that out. So heavy metals, it'll show us what's currently in your environment, you're being exposed to through the water supply, food supply, maybe the work environment, and what your body is able to effectively eliminate. Because part of the heavy metals is always, it accumulates, right, in the body, in the brain. So we got heavy metals, but then we also have the key ratios. So over the years, the science of orthomolecular medicine, nutrition therapy, they basically put 2 and 2 together, and they found that certain ratios between key minerals actually reveal important things about the body, like the condition of your adrenal glands, the condition of your thyroid, how well your body metabolizes sugar or glucose, are you pre-diabetic, etc. So there's those key ratios that we look at as well. And then there's some other patterns that I have discovered because of my specialty and expertise in alkalizing people and detoxing and the gut, the detoxing of the gut. I've noticed patterns in the hair tissue mineral analysis, which was never taught to us, and how it relates to the gut and toxicity and acidosis. So we also see patterns in your minerals that basically tell us that you're not absorbing your foods. You got malabsorption problems. Another one that would tell us that you're dealing with acidosis, right? Systemic acidosis. So yeah, it's a pretty inexpensive test in my opinion when compared to all the other ones, and it provides a lot of information. It's part of the top 3 tests I tell patients to get as a baseline, see where you're at.
And why the hair? Why is the hair the means of testing for all of these things?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So a lot of people and patients have the same question, and they say, why not the blood? And the reason is because the blood is probably the worst, fluid to test from the body, the most inaccurate, because it is a homeostatic fluid. The blood must preserve its homeostasis to the best that it can, to the best of its ability. So what this means, a good example is pH. So you could be suffering with acidosis all over your body, which then manifests as inflammation and pain and all the itis diseases that they don't know. They have no answers. We don't know why it's happening. But take this drug. It suppresses your body's intelligent immune response. So you could be suffering from pain and inflammation and acidosis all over the body, but your blood's pH will be basically the same. And if your blood pH shifts by either 0.2 upwards or downwards, you're going to go into coma. So that's a good example. Same with nutrients. Same with heavy metals. Look, heavy metals are not, your body's not going to let those toxins circulate through your blood because it's life-threatening. It'll always push these poisons into your joints, into fat cells to be stored to protect your vital organs. So toxicity is not going to show up, acidity is not going to show up, and deficiencies won't show up either. Deficiencies occur first within the cellular level, at the tissue level. And then if it's extremely severe, then it will reveal itself in your blood. But then again, the modern day blood tests, that's a whole different podcast on how they are rigged, to put it mildly, where the baseline thresholds they set for vitamins and minerals is extremely low, so that, the test shows you're fine. We don't know what's wrong with you, but in reality, you're extremely deficient in magnesium or vitamin C. And with heavy metals too, right? But we're not going to get into that right now.
Yeah.
So it's just more accurate at showing deficiencies before they become severe. Right.
Right. And embracing preventative medicine rather than waiting until you get sick and having to cope with that in an attempt to cure whatever disease you might have. And reflecting on something you mentioned before about how in the plant and other mammal worlds, there's rarely any sickness, or there's at least not chronic disease. I would say that, considering like my cucumber and zucchini harvests in the past, I've had more success in preventing the pests that almost inevitably would come otherwise. Like you can inject the vine of a cucumber, and I believe also a zucchini or a squash, with neem oil, for instance, which will keep certain pests at bay. But you have to do it very early in its life. Not too early, not when they're babies, but when they're adolescents, you have to prevent that sort of that powdery disease that could arise. And I think it's the same as with people too. Maybe some people and babies, as you've said, are prone to certain diseases because we're no longer born pure. but as I also came to understand and have a heightened awareness of earlier in the 2020s, we can do quite a lot to boost our immune systems and prevent illness, such as the illness that shall not be named, from landing upon us, or perhaps from being as severe if you do catch something. So, how can one create consistently an immunity boosting diet, or take other actions to create a healthy immune system?
Yeah, so that's a pretty good question. And but I would say the diet again plays a huge role. So trying to gravitate towards a pure diet, um, not taking drugs, and other medical interventions that suppress your immune system. And that's very common by the modern day medical doctors, is we don't know why this is happening to you, but here, take um, this inhaler or this injection that effectively suppresses your body's intelligent immune response to toxicity and acidosis and infections, to give you an illusion of improvement or cure, while allowing the underlying toxicity and infections to grow worse. So not taking those type of drugs that suppress your immune system, that's also important. And basically all the drugs, like if you study the drugs, like I've been forced to over the years, you find that all the drugs, the pharmaceutical drugs, most of them, not all, but most of them, they do have an incredibly damaging effect on the immune system. So like cholesterol lowering medication is a good example of a seemingly innocent drug that they're pushing on the majority of the population of the world. And in most cases, I hear my patients say, the doctor recommended it as a preventative. My cholesterol is slightly, kind of getting there. And he says, as a preventative, start taking it so that you can no longer produce cortisol, which is the raw material from which all your hormones are created. Now you become testosterone deficient. Now you become, you can't produce healthy cholesterol for your brain. Now you experience dementia. It's unreal. So all these drugs, a lot of the drugs, you have to be very careful with pharmaceuticals. But then I would go to, just yesterday in my private live stream, I was sharing that some of the most powerful things that you can do to recover your health and maintain your health are actually free, because God is the all-merciful and the most compassionate. He would never deprive poor people of health, okay, and just make it exclusively available to the elite, okay? And some of these I shared. One of them is preserving one's sexual energy, because it has an incredible, you can't heal. You cannot heal if you are expending this crucial energy every day. You won't heal, guaranteed. So that's extremely important, right? Preservation of the sexual energy and channeling it to be able to heal, right? Towards healing, the choice nutrients, right? From your blood. Another one is fasting. Nobody can take that away from you. There's so many different types of fasting, and naturally when you're sick, you lose your appetite. So your body's telling you need to fast. Well, there's so many different types of fasting that will allow your body to expend less energy on digestion and use it more towards healing and detoxification. Nobody can take that away from you. The Word of God, many of us, we know how healing that is. It's the highest form of information medicine, which transforms your perception of what happened to you, of your reality, and it has a trickling effect. The biology of belief by Bruce Lipton. It's scientific now, right? What you perceive affects your thoughts affect your emotions affect your biology. So, the Word of God, nobody can take that away from you either, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Baha'i, etc., or a Jew. So and earthing, nobody can take that away from you. You know what I'm saying? That's incredibly powerful. So I just wanted to point out those are some of the most powerful ways to maintain a robust immunity. And it's free. It's all free. Most of them are free.
Musing on what else no one can take away from you, and something that's very personal is your dreams. Just your sleep in general. Like, all mammals do it. Even some plants do it. We'll see some flowers close up at night and open up in the morning, such as a morning glory. And I was listening to one of your older live streams, and you were speaking to how one can produce naturally melatonin before sleep and other chemicals that might help you relax before bed and ease a person into deep sleep and deep, detailed, and memorable dreams. Could you share more about how one could make that happen?
I don't recall that live stream, but I will share maybe a few thoughts. So yeah, improving sleep. There are many root causes that can cause a person to experience insomnia, but some of the big ones I would say again was toxicity. So an infected gut with parasites and fungus, and even traditional Chinese medicine teaches that if you, especially you wake up and you can't go back to sleep at 3, 4 a.m., then it's a liver toxicity issue. And so when you detox, when my patients get rid of parasites for the first time in their life, they do a proper deparasitization, which the modern day doctor would laugh at you for even considering. Oh, you don't live in Africa, right? So you probably don't have parasites. Wrong. So when they remove parasites, all of a sudden they sleep like a baby, right? So for somebody it could be that. For other people's it could be Wi-Fi. They don't turn off their Wi-Fi at night. Earthing will make you sleep like a baby, big time, because when you don't earth, you have all of this man-made electricity, dirty electricity, alternating current within you. And when you earth, you clear all of that up. And we are electric beings first and foremost. Every cell of your body has an electric potential. So it has a big impact. The main feedback you get from people when they first take off their shoes for the first time and plant their feet, they say how peaceful, how earthed, how grounded they feel, and anxieties. They don't have anxiety anymore, and even depression. So it's another thing that's been withheld from the people is the knowledge that we are first and foremost. We're first and foremost spiritual beings, but on the physical plane, we are electric beings. And most people don't know this, right? Your heart, they use an electrocardiogram. They use, those two things. They shock you back to life. What else? You need salt. They lie to you about salt. That's a big crime as well. They fear-mongered the populace to eat less salt. But then when you end up in the hospital because of it, the first thing they do to you when they say it's so dangerous is they hook you up to the soro physiological, right, with salt. And most people get better, and they don't know why, but it's because they've replenished your salt levels. And salt is important for conductivity. So earthing and your environment too. So testing out the dirty electricity in the walls, that'll keep some people up and awake. And being wired and tired, that's a big one. When people are copper toxic, copper builds in their brains, and that'll make you wired and tired. You'll be tired, but you'll be wired and you can't go to sleep. So there's so many different reasons. Another big one is melatonin, blue light. Every health influencer is talking about it, and there is truth to that too, right? So blue light lies to your eyes and prevents your body from producing melatonin. And so there's that aspect too, which is the lighting that we use. It's not natural lighting. The light bulbs are LED now. You got the blue light from the technology. So instructing your eyes to not produce melatonin as it should. But a lot of people don't, their pineal gland doesn't even produce melatonin anymore because it's been poisoned and calcified with fluoride, right? Which is good for your teeth. So we'll keep putting it in your water supply. And it also reduces your IQ, the two studies that came out of Canada recently. But we prefer that your teeth be nice and white, but that you be dumbed down, essentially. It's more important for those in power. But with the, I just want to share with the melatonin, one of the things I've found, and this is also personal as well, is that I lost the ability to dream for such a long time. But then when I started to detox heavy metals from my brain, my ability to dream has returned. And this is the case for a lot of my patients too. And I do believe that it is, maybe it's by chance, but again, the satanic forces have done everything in their power to disconnect us from our spiritual reality, our true reality, which is what makes us powerful, right? And for the longest time throughout history and in history books of all kind, we read that human beings used to rely on dreams quite a lot, quite a lot. They used to rely on their dreams to provide to them insights and, future scenarios, which they would then base their decisions on and faith on, etc. And when I was a kid, I experienced it to a certain degree. And then throughout life, as we got poisoned and more toxic, I lost that ability. But then when I detox the brain of heavy metals, till this day, every night I have dreams, which I email to myself in a dream log, because a lot of them end up coming true. And that is a power. That is a power that we have, which is through the dreams to access a realm, a spiritual realm, which is beyond time and space. Because time and space is only pertains to this material reality. But at least in the Baha'i teachings, we learn that the soul is not restrained by time and space. So I believe that whether intentionally or by chance, that ability to access the realm of the dream has been taken away from a lot of people in the world. But we can help you reclaim it by detoxing your brain and your pineal gland.
Beautiful. And within the belief system that we're all global citizens and essentially that we are people of the earth, I understand that there's also perhaps musings on what a global health system could look like, but also concerns about, what a global health system or, perhaps like a world government or any sort of globalization could look like if we lean in the direction of materialism rather than spirituality and morality. When you envision the possibility of a global health system, what value do you see in it? What could that look like? How could it function? And what might the risks be of such a system?
So, yeah, I've given this some thought especially over the past 3-4 years. I'm sure as you have too, the dangers of globalizing and centralizing the health system, which, I mean, we've all experienced enough of to know that it's more of a threat than it is good. The more centralized and the more monopolized the medical systems have become since the time of Rockefeller, Carnegie, and the Flexner brothers, it's become the opposite of what health and medicine, is supposed to do. And so really, in my mind, the solution is decentralization and freeing ourselves from this monopoly and the globalization and the control. And every village and every country reclaiming their control over how they decide to respond to a pandemic or what type of medicines they decide to use. every environment is different. Every health issue that arises in a given environment is different. And so, and different herbs grow in different climates too. So just like the old days, where you had the indigenous and you had the Ayurvedic in India and the traditional Chinese medicine, that's when medicine was real and pure and would actually cure people, right? The doctors were trained to actually cure people. And so that's kind of what we need to go back to if there's any hope, in my opinion. And it's not just for medicine, it's for every system. We've seen every system become centralized and globalized by, a small group of people and weaponized against the masses. The educational system, right? Indoctrination and pushing victim mindset ideologies that divide people and disempower people and teach you all kinds of nonsense and don't teach you anything that's of value, like a lot of the stuff you guys talk about on your podcast. And the farming system hijacked and centralized, right? The medical system hijacked, centralized. The financial system centralized, hijacked, right? Weaponized. So the information system, right? Gatekeepers of truth, censoring everybody who speaks the truth and bearing all the true information. So with every system, the way I see it, people need to reclaim control of every system. Parents need to start uniting forces and homeschooling their kids. They decide what they're going to teach their kids, not the states, what they're going to feed their kids, etc.
Now, when you consider any organization or group, including a garden, there are what can be called invasive species or parasites, if you will. In terms of health and maybe just, spiritually and like holistically, how would you sum up your philosophy on like how to prevent an invasion of sorts before it happens? Because we have organizations, we have groups of well-intentioned people, and just like individuals, we're all kind of prone, or groups are prone to the outside world, the world of materialism creeping in and having a negative impact on the overall health of a person, of a group, of a garden. What are your thoughts on how to prevent that from happening?
Interestingly, I've had those thoughts again, especially during 2-3 years ago. And the thought was that a lot of people, they recognize some of the players, the bad players. And, in my mind, I was like, if somehow they get locked up for their crimes against humanity, or they get removed somehow, then other, satanic individuals would rise to power, and we're back at square one, right? So that's not the solution. Definitely, that's not the solution, which made me then think about what I do, the principles of health and even gardening, which is the solution is to change the environment. So it goes back to the terrain theory of disease, where every cell plays a role, right? Every cell comprises the terrain, right? And it really goes back to the words of Mahatma Gandhi, which many people are famous. Many people remember and know that he was made famous for, is be the change you want to see. So every cell of the body must become healthy, alkaline, nourished, and resilient to change that collective environment so that it does not cause those mutations and it doesn't attract parasites and fungus, so that you don't have a weakened immunity because of toxicity, so that you invite fungus because you're the walking dead. You're so rotten and toxic that, hey, the fungus is, oozing out of every orifice, which is the case for a lot of people, unfortunately. So it really comes down to people realizing that they play a huge role when it comes to um, changing the destiny of humanity, right? Our future. In the words of Baha'u'llah, he says, every man has been created to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization. So it's changing yourself. And in fact, that's what every messenger of God came to do. That's what Christ came to do, Muhammad came to do, Baha'u'llah came to do, is to revolutionize not only the outer reality of man, but also his inner life, right? His insides. Going back to religion and the primary purpose of religion, we're not talking about, again, hijacked religion. It's like hijacked medicine, hijacked finances and farming. Everything has been hijacked by the dark forces. But religion in its purity is designed to revolutionize, the inner and outer reality of man. And so that no human being would ever want to be a corrupt ruler, would never seek power and greed. And in fact, that's what we're seeing. The more consciousness is unlocked through the Word of God for the age we live in, we see that we become immune to being bought out. We have values. In fact, during the time of crisis 3-4 years ago, one of the things we found is that the most courageous of human beings who put everything on the line, they put their lives on the line, they put their jobs on the line, money, reputation, everything to protect humanity. Who were they? The majority were godly people, strong, religious, godly people. And we could go through a list of 50 of them, right? So, and those type of people are rare nowadays because we live in a mostly godless society. So we need to bring that back, right? We need to bring the vitamin G, right? We need to bring God back and to create that transformation, the revolution in the heart and the mind of man, so that, justice and love and peace and fairness will shine moving forward.
It all comes back to the individual's overall health and well-being. And once you strengthen that, then you can come together in groups and hopefully as a collective to co-create a more beautiful world. And I thank you, Nabil, for sharing your insights on all of this. I'd also love for anyone to feel free to reach out to you. Where can people find you now that your YouTube channel has been shadow banned?
Sure. Yeah, they can find me on soreadyforhealth.com. You can email me through my website. I do have a podcast, but it's also been banned off of Spotify, so you can find it on some of the other podcast platforms. And I'd say that's mainly it. But I'd like to maybe finish off by saying that I've gotten into the business of helping clients and my patients, actually, it happened very organically, to purchase land in the countryside of Madeira. And at first it seemed like a disconnect getting into real estate, but I've turned it into something. I would call it natural real estate or countryside real estate, because I'm helping patients achieve the same dream that I've been able to achieve. And there's nothing more influential to your health than the environment you live in. And I've experienced it myself. I've never been happier surrounded by nature. That's what we've been designed to be living in, not in a cubicle, in an apartment, and in the cities. And everybody has a right. It's a God-given human right to have a piece of land to your name where you can grow your own food, which the dark forces are trying to strip away from you, right? In many ways. So that's bringing me so much joy. And I'm spending actually half of my time now helping my patients come from Canada, the US, and buy land for dead cheap, compared to the prices of Canada and the US. So I do have a Telegram channel for that as well. Anybody interested can and look it up, and I'll be so happy to help you guys find your a dream place on this beautiful island.
I'm interested.
Let's
Yeah,
be in
yeah.
touch.
Please, really, please do invite me to that. I think we've been connected on Telegram before. I just need to re-download the app.
Okay.
So,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.
all right. Well, you take care, Nabil, and we will be in touch.
Take care.
Bye bye.